It's week 5 NFL review time, you sexy bastards. I need to do these videos so I don't get evicted from my apartment. Let's begin. If you're a degenerate who gets sexually aroused from watching punts and turnovers, you had a hell of a time watching this one. If you're a normal person with a normal name, like me, this was one of the worst games ever. There were 4 turnovers, all interceptions, 12 punts, and 0 touchdowns scored in this brutal 12-9 Indianapolis overtime win. Matt Ryan playing like shit wasn't surprising at this stage of his career, but it appears that before leaving Seattle, Russell Wilson and Geno Smith switched bodies Freaky Friday style. Remember pre-Coke Lindsay Lohan? She was special. Anyway, Wilson threw an interception in the red zone with a 9-6 lead with 2 minutes left, which then led to Ryan having a game-tying field goal drive and then a go-ahead field goal drive in overtime, leaving Russ with one last chance to make amends. Russ then drove Denver inside the Indy 10, but instead of going for a game-tying field goal on 4th and 1 from the Indianapolis 5, Nathaniel Hackett decided to go for the win, and it ended with Mr. Very Limited throwing an incompletion to seal the loss. To make matters worse, Wilson's reps came up with an injury excuse after the game. So sad. New York Giants versus Green Bay. The British were treated to a great game between a future first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterback and also Aaron Rodgers. The Giants continued their fluky season by having a massive 27-22 comeback win over the Green Bay Jeffrey Dahmers. Green Bay's offense was in top form in the first half, though, as Rodgers threw 2 touchdowns to give Green Bay a 20-10 halftime lead. In years past, 20 points would have been more than enough to beat the shit Giants, but in the second half, the Packers were distracted by the tragic and untimely death of Queen Elizabeth last month. Green Bay's defense couldn't get off the field in the second half, giving up a 7-minute field goal drive to make it 20-13, and then an 8-minute touchdown drive to tie it at 20 early in the fourth. Rodgers had a chance to give Green Bay a lead, but of course went 3 and out. New York then took a 27-20 lead on a Saquon Barkley touchdown with 6 minutes left, leaving Rodgers with time to tie or win the game. But much like Russ, Rodgers got Green Bay inside the Giants' 10, but on 3rd and 4th down from the 6-yard line with a minute left, both of his passes got batted down. New York took a safety to make it 27-22, but the game officially ended with Rodgers being sacked on a failed Mary attempt. New England versus Detroit. Detroit came into this game with the best offense in the NFL and a 1-3 record, of course, because this is still the Lions we're talking about here. But when it's Jared Goff versus Bill Belichick, always bet on Belichick. In Bailey Zappe's first career start, he played like a typical Pats quarterback game manager role to perfection, while Belichick's defense made Goff look like a goof in this 29-0 New England win. The game pretty much ended on a 59-yard fumble return touchdown by Kyle Duggar to give New England a 13-0 lead late in the first half. The entire second half was really just Belichick continuing to drag his balls all over Dan Campbell's face. Zappe even managed to throw a touchdown pass to Jacoby Myers late in the third to make it 26-0 before a Nick Folk field goal closed the scoring. Lions fans are now starting to turn on Campbell, which is somewhat surprising to me, as I thought he would have had more of a grace period due to how likable and muscular he is, and the fact that he actually looks like a Lion. Tough scene indeed. Houston versus Jacksonville. This game was just as bad as the aforementioned Indy-Denver game, except it was a 1 p.m. game between 2 shitty teams, so it didn't get nearly the same attention. Still, if you're a sicko like me who tries to look for storylines in every game no matter how awful it is, you can say the legendary Davis Mills-Trevor Lawrence rivalry added another chapter, and once again Mills looked superior, although considering how awful Lawrence was in this game, that isn't saying much. I told Jags fans to not overreact to a few good games by Lawrence, who continues to look more and more like the next Blaine Gabbert instead of the next Peyton Manning with each passing week. There were no touchdowns scored in the first 56 minutes of the game, then Houston rookie star running back Damon Pierce finally got it in, no offense to incels, to give Houston a 13-6 lead with 3 minutes left. Lawrence had 2 drives in the final 3 minutes to try and tie the game, but his terrible crunch time performance continued, as the first drive ended on downs and the second ended with him throwing a desperation interception as time expired to seal the loss for the Jaguars. Please pray for Doug Peterson's visor. Minnesota versus Chicago. The moment I saw Kirk Cousins was in a 1 p.m. game against a shitty young quarterback this week, I immediately put my son's entire college savings on Minnesota to win, and I wasn't let down. Cousins and Justin Jefferson played a nearly perfect first half, giving Minnesota a commanding 21-3 lead at one point. For all the shit I give him, no offense to Odell Beckham, Justin Fields actually played pretty well in this one. I am tough but fair. After falling behind 21-3, the Bears scored 19 consecutive points to take a 22-21 lead early in the fourth. Chicago was helped out by a couple Minnesota missed field goals and a terrible Cousins interception along the way. But Cousins led a monster 17-play, 75-yard touchdown drive and a 2-point conversion to Justin Jefferson to retake a 29-22 lead with 2:26 left. Fields actually looked poised on the potential game-tying drive, getting the ball past midfield when his wide receiver Amir Smith-Marset had his manhood taken away from him on national television by Cameron Dantzler, who literally took the ball right out of Marset's hands like he was a toddler to seal the loss for Chicago. Kirk Cousins is now 4-1, drifting far above the 500 line. So expect another global pandemic soon, just like after after Cousins' 10-6 season in 2019. Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. Look, I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is going to be good, but Mike Tomlin giving him his first career start on the road against the top 2 team in the NFL right now is kind of cruel. The game went about how you'd expect. Josh Allen had one of the best days of his career, starting off the day with a 98-yard touchdown pass to Gabe Davis. Pittsburgh responded with a field goal to make it 7-3, and that was it for their offense for the day. Allen proceeded to throw another touchdown to Davis, this time only a measly 62 yards to make it 17-3. Then he threw one to Stephon Diggs to make it 24-3, and then another one to Khalil Shakir to make it 31-3 Bills at halftime. In total, Allen finished the day with 424 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 134.1 rating, and 42 more yards on the ground. His only blemish was an interception in the end zone in the second quarter. Despite scoring just 3 points, Pickett actually moved the ball relatively well for a guy making his first career start against an elite defense, and despite his comically small hands, he actually threw the ball downfield a decent amount, which is what being a man is all about. A fourth quarter touchdown run by James Cook made it 38-3 Buffalo to take us to the final score. God, isn't it just so awesome the Bills decided to become great the moment that bitch Brady left the division? I'm not angry about it. Tennessee versus Washington. It's not every day you see a team go into a Super Bowl champion quarterback like Carson Wentz's house and beat him, but that's exactly what the Tennessee Tits did. Tennessee took a 7-0 lead in the first off of a touchdown pass from Steve Stifler to Dontrell Hilliard, but Wentz was unfazed, leading Washington to a field goal in response to make it 7-3 after one. All joking aside, Wentz had several absolute dimes in this game, including a monster 75-yard touchdown pass to Diami Brown to take a 10-7 lead. But just as the first half was about to close, Derrick Henry said, "Fuck you, Dan Snyder," and punched in a 1-yard touchdown to give Tennessee a 14-10 lead. Wentz then used his ginger powers to find Brown on another impressive 30-yard touchdown pass to give Washington a 17-14 lead late in the third, but Henry's hatred for Dan Snyder prevailed once again, with another 1-yard touchdown run to give Tennessee a 21-17 lead entering the fourth. The fourth consisted of punts until Washington's final drive, where Wentz drove the team 87 yards to the Tennessee 2-yard line, where he threw a game-losing interception because he's Carson Wentz, and no matter what he does, things will always end badly for him. Most quarterbacks have their legacies made when their team wins a Super Bowl. Wentz's legacy was forever destroyed when his team won a Super Bowl. Ponder that while I think about how much I hate premarital sex. Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. Look, you don't give a shit about the details of this game. You're here for the roughing the passer call against Atlanta down 6 late in the fourth against Tom Brady. Well, I'll let all of you Brady haters know that Brady is a warrior that has been taking brutal hits for decades. Just look at this reel I put together. Brady literally could have died from Grady Jarrett's hit, but thankfully he's alright. As for the rest of the game, Brady did a bunch of his dink and dunk bullshit while his defense shut out Atlanta for 3 quarters to give Tampa a 21 lead entering the final stanza. Atlanta actually showed some life, roaring back to cut it to 21-15 with 4:38 left. Look, we all know Brady's defense would have bailed him out in the end anyway, but the refs blatantly saving him from potentially losing 3 straight games was just disgusting. Thanks a lot, Biden. New Orleans versus Seattle. This game had no right to be as exciting as it was, unless Geno Smith is actually just going to be good now for like forever. Anyway, my boy Geno found chronic pooper DK Metcalf for a 50-yard touchdown to go up 7-3 early on. Once Seattle went up 10-3 after the first though, Taysom Tebow's Mormon powers were activated as he began fucking every defender in sight, scoring back-to-back touchdown runs to give New Orleans a 17-10 lead. But Geno was not fazed. He led Seattle to a field goal drive and then threw an absolutely gorgeous 35-yard touchdown to Tyler Lockett just before halftime to give Seattle a 19-17 lead. The third quarter belonged to the Saints though, as Andy Dalton found Chris Olave for a go-ahead touchdown. Then our Mormon friend Taysom threw a 22-yard touchdown to give New Orleans a 31-19 lead entering the fourth. But this is the new Geno Smith, motherfuckers, and he proceeded to fire another absolute 40-yard beauty to Lockett for a touchdown to make it 31-26. After a defensive stop, Seattle rookie running back Kenneth Walker III reeled off a 69-yard touchdown run to go up 32-31. Come on, people, really? Laughing at his 69 joke? Grow up, please. This is a classy channel. Anyways, Taysom wasn't done fucking, as he reeled off a 60-yard touchdown of his own, plus a Mark Ingram 2-point conversion run, gave New Orleans a 39-32 lead with 5 minutes left. Unfortunately, Geno went 3 and out on his last drive, and his defense never got him the ball back to seal the 39-32 loss for Seattle and Brandy Love lookalike Pete Carroll. LA Chargers versus Cleveland. The Browns, no offense to Paul Pierce's underwear in the 2008 finals, answered first with a 41-yard touchdown run by Nick Chubb to take a 7-0 lead. They then took a 14-0 lead when Amari Cooper decided to show up to grab a touchdown from the Browns' non-sexual predator quarterback Jacoby Brissett. LA reeled off 17 straight points points thanks to the effort of Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler to take a 17-14 lead, but Chubb put Cleveland back on top, no offense to my ex-wife in bed, to give Cleveland a 21-17 halftime lead. But it was to be short-lived, as LA scored the first 10 points of the third to take a 27-21 lead, before legendary women's rights activist Kareem Hunt kicked the Browns back in front with a 2-yard touchdown run to take a 28-27 lead into the fourth. Herbert calmly led LA on a 13-play, 66-yard field goal drive to go up 30-28 with 9:29 left before Brissett led a 12-play, 73-yard drive that ended in another crucial crunch time interception with 3 minutes left. LA stupidly decided to go for it on 4th down near midfield and failed, giving Cleveland another chance, but a potential game-winning 53-yard field goal from Cade York missed, sealing the loss for Cleveland. God, you just hate to see this happen to a team with Deshaun Watson on it. New York Jets versus Miami. Already down their original starting quarterback, Miami took another blow when gigantic penis haver Teddy Bridgewater went out with an injury on the first offensive play, which resulted in a safety for the Jets. This meant the Miami quarterback the rest of the game was something named Skylar Thompson. It went about as you'd expect. The Jets jumped out to a 12-0 lead early in the second on a touchdown run before Miami made it 12-7 on a Raheem Mostert touchdown run. Zach Wilson ran for a touchdown before Miami answered back with another touchdown to make it 19-14 Jets at halftime. The third quarter was boring outside of a Miami field goal to make it 19-17 entering the fourth, when the Jets turned it into a blowout. Miami missed a go-ahead 54-yard field goal to start the period, then gave up 3 straight rushing touchdowns in a 5-minute span, which made it 40-17 Jets. Considering Miami is home to a lot of older women, mostly retired, it's not surprising Zach Wilson had his way with them. San Francisco versus Carolina. Just because my Jimmy Garoppolo is beautiful does not mean he's not ruthless. After all, his performance in this game ended up getting Panthers head coach Matt Rule fired. Jimmy G averaged 8.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, and a 109.4 rating in an easy 37-15 49ers win. This game was really never close after a brutal Baker Mayfield pick 6 just before halftime that made it 17-3 49ers. Hard worker Christian McCaffrey had a 19-yard touchdown run to make it 17-9, but Jimmy G squashed that by answering with a 4-yard touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel to make it 24-9. Carolina never got within one score again, as the 49ers ran for touchdowns that made it 30-12 and 37-15 respectively. Mayfield is now hurt and will miss a few weeks, but at this point he's completely broken mentally, and it might be best for him to not play another snap for Carolina. Congrats to Rule on getting his Charlie Weiss on, aka getting paid millions to do nothing by a team that just fired you. Jimmy G deserves MVP, and I'm totally not biased. Philadelphia versus Arizona. At first, this game looked like it was going to be a blowout, as MVP candidate Jalen Hurts ran for 2 touchdowns to give Philadelphia a 14-0 lead midway through the second quarter. But Arizona would not go away, just like my herpes. Kyler Murray found Hollywood Brown for a 25-yard touchdown to make it 14-7. Then Arizona added a field goal to make it 14-10 Philadelphia at halftime. The third quarter saw nothing but a Philadelphia field goal by Cameron Dicker, no offense to Grey Worm from Game of Thrones, to make it 17-10 Philly entering the fourth. Murray answered with a long touchdown drive capped off by a Eno Benjamin touchdown run to tie it at 17 with 9:43 left. But they left Jalen Hurts too much time, as he answered back with a 17-play, 70-yard drive that ended with the go-ahead field goal with 1:48 left. Murray then got the ball into field goal range, but he stupidly spiked the ball on 3rd and 1, forcing his kicker to take a 43-yard field goal instead of a potentially shorter one, of course, which his kicker then missed the field goal to lose the game. But I don't give a fuck. Thank you, Kyler. Oh, what's that, bitches? Your favorite team isn't 5-0? Ha, sucks to suck. Super Bowl 57 champs, baby. Dallas versus the LA Rams. This game was boring as hell, and the Cowboys won, so it's really not worth celebrating anyway. But I do find it interesting that Dallas is now 5-0 with Cooper Rush starting over the last 2 years. Could Cooper Rush be the next Tom Brady? It's not as far-fetched as you think. Remember, Tom Brady got his start replacing Drew Bledsoe. You know who else got his start replacing Drew Bledsoe? That's right, Tony Romo. Now tell me, who ended up replacing Tony Romo in Dallas? That's right, Dak Prescott. Now wait, who's replacing Dak right now? Boom, you guessed it, Cooper Rush. Mind blown. It's all connected, goddammit. You think it's a coincidence the Cowboys defense plays great with Rush at quarterback? No, he has inherited the Brady magic. As for the actual Super Bowl winning quarterback in this game, outside of a 75-yard touchdown pass to daughter dater Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford sucked, committing 3 turnovers. He's looking like the worst starting quarterback, sorry Foles, to win a ring since Flacco. Sean McVay and his permanent 5 o'clock shadow / quasi beard has a lot of work to do to fix the Rams. Baltimore versus Cincinnati. This game might as well have been renamed the Justin Tucker Showcase, as the future Hall of Famer, and I'm actually serious when I say that, kicked 4 field goals and Baltimore needed all of them to squeak out this 19-17 win. Baltimore had a 10-0 lead early in the second after a Lamar Jackson touchdown pass to Mark Andrews, but Joe Burrow answered back with a touchdown pass to Hayden Hurst, and a Cincy field goal made it a 10-10 game at halftime. The third quarter saw Cincy suffer from a Burrow interception and a turnover on downs inside Baltimore's 2-yard line, while Baltimore took a 13-10 lead on a 58-yard field goal by Tucker. Baltimore then took a 16-10 lead after a 15-play drive, but Burrow responded with a 13-play, 75-yard touchdown drive that ended with him running it in to give Cincy a 17-16 lead with 1:58 left. The moment was not too big for Lamar this time, as he calmly threw and ran his way deep into Cincy territory to set up Tucker for a game-winning 43-yard field goal as time expired, which he made with ease to win the game 19-17. I said it before the season, but Cincy and Burrow not being able to close out the Super Bowl last year is only going to hurt more since they're never getting back there again in the near future. Kansas City versus Las Vegas. This game was all over the place from start to finish, but I enjoyed it. Vegas started the fireworks, no offense to, well, you know who I'm going to say, alright? Jason Pierre-Paul. Anyway, Derek Carr threw a 58-yard touchdown to Devontae Adams to give Vegas a 7-0 lead after one. A Josh Jacobs touchdown run made it 14-0 Vegas, and a Daniel Carlson field goal made it 17-0 Vegas with 9:22 left in the second. And you actually started to think maybe Vegas was really going to win this. But then again, this is Patrick Mahomes we're talking about, and he owns the Raiders. He threw a touchdown to Travis Kelce to make it 17-7, but a terrible roughing the passer penalty helped Vegas take a 20-7 lead late in the second, but Kansas City responded with a 59-yard field goal to make it 20-10 Vegas at halftime. The third quarter was just Mahomes and Kelce padding each other's stats with two more touchdown connections to give Kansas City a 24-20 lead entering the fourth. A Vegas field goal made it 24-23, but a fourth touchdown connection between Mahomes and Kelce after a very questionable holding call on a Kansas City missed field goal made it 30-23 Kansas City with 7:25 left, but they missed the two-point conversion. Carr responded with a gorgeous 48-yard touchdown pass to Adams to make it 30-29 with 4:27 left, but Vegas went for two and failed. Surprisingly, it worked out for them as they got the ball back with a chance to win, but a bobbled incompletion by Adams and a terrible 4th-and-1 call sealed the loss for Vegas. Never forget that when push comes to shove, no offense to Devontae Adams, the Raiders will always be the Raiders. Shout out to Kelce for a truly hilarious stat line. No offense to Julio Jones. Enough of that football shit. It's puppy time.